Hello and welcome to the RacingBet Racing Preview ahead of Group 1 Railway Stakes Day, also Ballarat Cup Day over in Victoria. I'm your host, Tim Geers, joined again by Trent Crebbin to take you through all of the weekend's action. We're talking about Saturday, the 21st of November. Trent, how's things over in Adelaide for you? I understand you're back in lockdown, but look, to be honest, I think your situation in lockdown is probably better than what I've encountered the last couple of days on the punt. How's things?
Yeah, look, it's not too bad. We're locked down for a week. I think it's just left me with even more time to get into the form and really find us some winners on Ballarat Cup Day and over in Ascot for Railway Day.
I've had an absolute strip out the last couple of days. I had a bit of a frustrating affair over at Ascot on Wednesday. Backed that up with a complete strip out at Happy Valley on Wednesday night, another really frustrating one. So I'm looking to bounce back this weekend. I need a couple of winners, and I'm really keen to get stuck into this Ascot card on Railway Stakes Day. Plenty of good racing, plenty of good fields, lots of good betting markets, and it's like a kid on Christmas time over here in the West for our carnival. 3 straight weeks of Group 1, $1 million races. Looking forward to bringing you all the coverage on RacingBet.com.au. We'll move over to Ballarat on Saturday, Ballarat Cup Day. Big card, big day over in Victoria. And your best bet's going to come up in race number 3. Very impressive horse this. Horse number 1, Shelby Cobra. Currently around $1.80, but is this just as simple as put in, take out?
Yeah, I think it is really. I really can't see a situation where he loses. He's fast becoming one of the new boyfriends here. I've backed him at his last 2 starts, and he's won both. He should have won on debut at the Valley as well. Just had no luck there. I loved his last start win at Flemington over 1,400 metres. In a good race, he beat Tommy Gold, deep speed. Alabor there was a long way off him. Came out and won the Sandown Guineas for us at its next start. Maps beautifully here. Barrier 5 stays at the 1,400. No knock there. That's fine. There's only one danger in the race. That's number 7, Reciprocation, who was very strong on debut with a big gap back to 3rd, running some good times. But honestly, I think Shelby Cobra, he's got that race experience. He maps beautifully, and I just can't really see anything having the class or the race experience really to trouble him. And he's around $1.80 or so. I think he just wins.
Here's how good I'm going, is because I backed Shelby Cobra on debut at Moonee Valley, of course, where he was held up, luckless, didn't win. Then I decided last start at Flemington to jump off him and back the other 2 horses in the market, thinking that, maybe that form from his win wasn't that strong. And of course, he came out and dominated. So he's a horse that I've struggled to find at the moment, but I agree, he does look quite clearly the horse to beat here. This is probably an easier race than what he faced on Cup Day. We'll get into your best value bet of the day, and it's a nice segue into the day's feature, the Ballarat Cup, because it comes up in this race, which is race number 8 on the card. And your best value bet of the day is horse number 5, Al Galeo, from the Kieran Maher David Eustace stable. Ben Mellon booked to ride. Currently $14 a $14 chance. Why don't you take us through your thoughts on Al Galeo and the race overall?
Yes, look, I thought Al Galeo was a good price here. He's been a drifter in early markets, but I can kind of understand why. He's coming off a 5-week break between runs in the Coonji Cup last start, where he's kind of just ridden a little bit upside down there. He kind of went forward, sat in the first couple in running, pulled up lame there. So I think there's clear excuses there. His couple of starts prior to that were excellent. He won the JRA Cup at Moonee Valley very impressively. The start before that, he won a 2,000 metre race at Caulfield, beating Order of the Garter, who was a one-time Caulfield Cup favourite. Look, I think the gap between runs and kind of coming off that lame run is probably why you're getting such a big price. But we see time and time again with the Maher and Eustace stable that the gap between runs is really not a problem with them. They can keep their horses kind of ticking over. 2,000 metres is his sweet spot, and especially on a dry track is where he seems to do his best racing. So if he's come out of that run, recovered well, I think his best form puts him in a really good chance here. And I think, at the double figure quote of $14, I think that's overs.
Can someone tell me, and this is probably because it's a pre-booking, but John Allen's jumped off Juniper here to ride Kawia for Archie Alexander, who's about 5 times the price. Juniper, obviously a good winner in the Group 3 Sandown Stakes last weekend, beating a couple of your boyfriends, one of those Buffalo River. Again, another one from Kieran Maher and David Eustace. Kieran McAvoy is in town. He takes over the ride from John Allen. How do you assess him? Because he looks obviously hard to beat, but does step up from 1,500 to 2,000.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting jockey switch. It probably is just a pre-booking thing. Kawhi has actually won this race the last 2 years, but he's probably not going as well this year. I wouldn't have thought it'd be a big chance. Juniper, I do have a really strong query stepping up to the 2,000 meters. He kind of was tested a little bit earlier in his career up to 1,800 and 2,000, but I thought it was kind of clear that he doesn't really get the trip. He's definitely an improved horse since then. And, you know, it was a strong race over 1,500 meters last start. Comes here on the back up. So, you know, he'd probably be fit enough, but I just really struggle to see him running at a strong 2,000 meters. And I was happy enough to kind of be against him on that fact.
What about the likes of Paradis, who's an emergency? Just another dagger in the heart for me. Backing her at Flemington in the Matriarch Stakes. The Matriarch Stakes looked home for all money and got nabbed on the line by a Fair to Remember, who she meets again here. How do you assess those two?
Yeah, look, Paradis, she makes the field. I thought was probably a decent chance of actually turning the table. She gets a 2 kilo weight swing, and kind of that was her first run at 2,000 meters, where Fair to Remember's kind of had that better platform to do that. I agree, it was a sick watch there, getting Paradis done on the line there. I'm happy enough to be against a Fair to Remember. I just think this is a big step up, kind of taking on some weight for age males here, and she just gets so far back that she's always going to need a lot of luck to kind of, you know, get the right run at the right time. I don't think Paradis will make the field, but if she does, she's definitely not the worst, and I could potentially have a small chop out on her or something. But I was happy enough to kind of be against a Fair to Remember in that matriarch form as a whole. Okay,
last one I'll ask you about. Your mate, Twitter's mate, and definitely not my mate, Sosabon, 62 kilos, barrier 1, $15. Back or leave me out?
I was sick backing, launching at him at Moonee Valley, and he got rolled. Look, he's a good horse, but
that sums up his entire career.
Yeah, and his run at Flemington next start was good, and obviously he got the win last start at Sandown. But he's not particularly well weighted. Like, he's got to carry 62. Goes up quite a bit in the weights there. Barrier 1, probably buried kind of midfield along the fence there. I was kind of happy enough to be against him here. I just think he's just not particularly well into the weights here compared to a couple others. All
right, so Ballarat Cup race number 8 on Saturday. Trent is with number 5, Al Galeo, his best value bet of the day, currently around $14. We'll leave Ballarat there. Any other final thoughts on the Ballarat card before we shift over to the West?
No, it looks a really good betting card at Ballarat. I'm actually pretty keen to get stuck in and launch a few units. So it's could be a bit of a make or break kind of day at Ballarat, but we've always got Ascot to blast us out if it goes poorly.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping, because like the Ballarat card, there's plenty of good races at Ascot. We've got, of course, the Railway Stakes headlining the day. We've got the Placid Arc Stakes, the WA Guineas, Jungle Mist Classic, the Crystal Slipper, and the Carbine Club to round out the card. So plenty of feature racing. Of course, one of the biggest days over here in the West. Can't wait to get stuck in. Now, I want to talk about the track for a second. Those who have gone on to RacingBet and read my article posted, I think it was Tuesday night that I posted it on there. I posted just a couple of things to consider ahead of the railway, looking at it, horse profiles, which horses are suited, but also a little bit on the track. Because I find it pretty interesting this year. Those who watched Ascot last weekend would have seen the torrential rain the track copped. We got absolutely hammered by just Armageddon apocalyptic conditions. The track ended up as a heavy 9. Now, what they do every year is they push the rail from the 9 metre position, where it was last Saturday, out to about 16 or 14 or 16 metres for the midweek meeting on the Wednesday. So it was at 16 on Wednesday. Then they shift it back into the inside position. So it's going back to the 3 metre mark for Railway Stakes Day. Now, basically from the 9 metre pad out is going to be pretty well chopped up. Very wide on the track is going to be really chopped up. But between the 3 metre position where the rail is and the 9 metre position is basically a 6 metre position, a 6 metre pad of fresh grass in the home straight. So it's going to be really interesting, especially early on the card, to see how that track plays, because they're basically racing on a fresh pad that hasn't been raced on for a couple of weeks now, in basically the inside 6 lanes in the home straight. So I'm tipping that's going to be quite superior ground, and anything beyond about 6 metres off the rail, I don't want to say it's going to be quicksand, but it's just going to be interesting to see if it is inferior ground or if they're able to make ground down the outside lanes. So it's just something to keep in mind. And, by the time the railway comes around, we'll have a pretty good gauge on it. We'll get stuck into my best bet before we have a look at the railway. And it's a good segue, because we had a viewer question come in from Ty Breezy, who asked who we were keen on in the Jungle Mist Classic. And I'm actually making A couple of horses in the Jungle Mist Classic, my best of the day. This is race number 7 on the card at Ascot. I think horse number 1, Flower of War, is the best bet of the day at $3. And I think the only other winning chance, at least in my eyes, or the other horse that I'm backing, is horse number 9, Russian Alley. I just think the conditions of this race perfectly suit Flower of War here. This mare, she's a 5-year-old. She's had 5 starts at this track and distance for 4 wins and a second placing, where she was beaten by Angelic Ruler at the end of last preparation. So look, this is her. In fact, that was over 1,400 metres. She was beaten by Free Trade over 1,200 metres last preparation, which is the only time she's lost over the track and distance. So he's a pretty decent horse on his day as well. So she gets back to her pet track and distance here. And if you look at the weight scale here, she carries 57.5 and the bottom weight is 55. So she's a 97 rater. And she's up against, look at Solid Azza. He's a 64 rater. So there's 33 rating points between them. Flower of War carries 2.5 kilos more than him. So at the weight, she is absolutely thrown in here. Chris Parnham takes over the ride, booked for Simon Miller, and there looks absolutely no speed in the race. So from barrier 8, I expect her to just jump straight to the front. And again, if that inside pad of grass is the place to be throughout the day, then she's going to take an enormous amount of running down. Overall at Ascot, she's had 9 starts for 5 wins, 2 second placings. She's had 6 wins from 9 starts at the distance. And as I said, 5 starts at the track and distance for 4 wins and a second placing. So she's my best of the day, race 7, number 1, Flower of War. But I do think that $8.50 or $9, $8.50 for horse number 9, Russian Alley, is a good bet. I'm also going to be backing her. She's had 4 wins from her 5 career starts. She was 3 out of 3 since resuming from basically a year off the track. She's been given about 10 weeks off leading into this race. She trialled well at Larkhill. And look, I think she's in this race up to her ears as well. She's only rated 71, but I think, she definitely hasn't reached her ceiling yet. And she's more than capable. So drawn well in 6, 55 kilos. Joe has a party on for David Harrison. I think she's the danger. And look, at $3 and $8.50, I think we can back them both. So that's my best bet of the day at Ascot on Saturday. And my best value bet, I'm going to go in the Crystal Slipper Stakes, which is race number 2 on the card. And I'm with horse number 2, Success Play, at $21. The thing that really catches my eye in this race is the booking of Chris Parnham for his dad, Neville Parnham. Chris Parnham jumped off Liwa, who is a $3.80 chance in this race, which is currently favourite in the market. So he actually rode this horse on debut for Simon Miller. She ran 5th on that occasion, but he jumps off her. And as well, he trialled horse number 10, Astrate, for Dan Morton, who's another trainer he rides for a lot. He chooses to jump off both of those fillies and take the ride on this 2-year-old colt by playing God for his dad, Neville Parnham. He trialled this horse in a 400-metre trial at Belmont back on the 9th of this month, and he chooses to stick with him for race day. So I'm reading a little bit between the lines there and hoping that that's some sort of lead. And I don't think it's necessarily as simple as, well, his dad trains the horse, so that's why he's riding it. He chooses plenty of other horses when his dad has runners in the race. So I think that's a pretty good lead. And even though he's drawn a little bit sticky out in barrier 12, I think $21 will see him start a little bit shorter than that. And hopefully he's got a bit of ability to back up that jockey booking. So making that my best value bet of the day. Race 2, number 2, Success Play. Right, Trent, we'll move into the day's feature race after all that. The Group 1 Railway Stakes, 1,600 metres, race number 8 on the card. And this looks like it's going to be run at a pretty hot tempo. Quickly go through the speed map. This is how I see it. You can tell me if you've got any other thoughts. I've got Great Shot leading from barrier 3. He, of course, won this race in 2017. Galo Chop starts from the widest barrier of all, barrier 20, so he'll come into 16 after emergencies come out. I expect him to roll forward and probably try and sit outside of Great Shot in the lead. Then we've got Red Can Man, who can put himself on speed. Too Close to the Sun, who, of course, won dominantly in the Gold Cup last weekend. He sat outside the leader last week, so he'll roll forward from his wide draw. And then outside of him, you've got Dance Music drawn out in barrier 19. She'll come in a few spots after emergencies. Behind them, you've got the likes of Taxigano and Material Man, who should settle off the speed. Kementari draws barrier 1. Expect to see him somewhere in midfield. Spiritual Warrior, Platoon, Cup Night, Unitime. I've got the 2 Peters horses, Inspirational Girl and Truly Great, in the back third of the field, along with KC. I think she'll settle back in the back third. And then you've got the likes of Missile Launch, at the back of the field. So pretty decent tempo on up front. Is that how you see it being run?
Yeah, it's pretty much spot on. I'm not 100% all over the field, all over the WA form, but that does look to be about right. It definitely looks more than genuine tempo. Great shot, can really roll along at speed. Too Close to Sun will be pouring it on along with Gala Chop as well. So it does look to be a truly run 1,600 metres.
All right, what's the best way for us to do this? Runner by runner, or we're just going to go through some main chances here? We've got a little bit of time.
We can go through the main chances, and any others you want to touch on quickly, I'll let you get your thoughts out on those ones.
All right, well, I'll kick off because there's really only two horses that I want to back in this race. As I said in my write-up the other night, looking at some of the key factors, I'll just go through some quickly. So in the past 20 years, every single winner of the Railway Stakes has been aged between 4 and 6 years old. Pretty telling factor there. There's been 10 4-year-olds, 5 5-year-olds, and 5 6-year-olds. In the weights, for the past 10 years, only one horse has carried more than 53.5 kilos to win this race, and that was in 2013, which was Lucky Gray, who carried 58 kilos, and that was his second victory in this Railway Stakes. So automatically, that really doesn't bode well for the likes of Kementari or KC up near the top of the weights. So basically, I'm looking at horses weighted with 53.5 or less. I think since 1972, there's only been 4 horses carrying more than 55 kilos to victory in this race. And if KC is going to win, she's going to make history by being the mare to carry the most weight ever to victory in the Railway Stakes. So with that in mind, I'm very, very happy to take on KC here. When I looked at the market when it first came out earlier in the week, she was around $4.80, which was absolutely poison. She's now drifted out to around about $6.50 or $7, which is a slightly better price, but I'm going to go as far to say is that she can't win. I'm also going to be against Kementari, who hasn't won since March 2018 in, I think it was the Randwick Guineas. Look, I think he'll run well. Barrier 1, Chris Parnham jumps off Truly Great, jumps on Kementari. I think that's the wrong move by Chris, but I can understand why he has done it, and I believe that he jumped onto Kementari before last weekend's win by Truly Great. It's also probably a better weight for him to carry than trying to get down to 53.5 for Truly Great. So I think Kementari will run well. We saw Best of Days run second in this race, beaten half a length, carrying 57 last year. Similar sort of horse here, Kementari, but he hasn't won since March 2018. Going to be against him. So the two horses in the race that I'm going to be backing, number 8, Red Can Man, and number 11, Inspirational Girl. Red Can Man, he just reminds me so much of Great Shot when he won this race in 2017. Like a very similar lead up. They both ran second in the Listia Stakes leading into the Railway Stakes. They both carried 53.5 kilos, put themselves on speed, and they're pretty bomb-proof. Now, Red Can Man, he comes into this race. He was beaten less than a length by Inspirational Girl and Too Close to the Sun, 2 starts to go on the Asian Bow Stakes. He meets those two 1.5 kilos and 1 kilo better at the weights respectively. And then last start, he was run down by KC at weight for age conditions where he carried 59 kilos. Now he drops down to 53.5. So he meets KC 4.5 kilos better off at the weights today. Just his setup, his profile, the form he's in. And as I said, I just expect him to get a nice run behind that leading division. And I think the way I see the race being run, I think he's probably going to be in front at the 200-metre mark. And I think the horse trying to chop him down from the back of the field is Inspirational Girl. Now, she's won 8 from her 10 career starts, so you don't need a genius to tell her that she's pretty good. The thing that really sticks out to me, one of the things that sticks out to me is the fact that William Pike gave up basically a sure Group 1 victory on one of his favourite horses, Arcadia Queen, in the McKinnon Stakes, in order to get back to WA, purely to ride in the Railway Stakes where he's booked for Inspirational Girl. So that would tell you that they must rate this horse very, very highly in this race. As I said, she's won 8 of her 10 career starts. She reminds me a little bit of Galaxy Star, who won this race 2 years ago. She was a 6-year-old mare. Inspirational Girl was a 5-year-old mare. And while mares don't have a great record in this race, her setup looks very good. You know, she gets in with 53 kilos. As we've said, Pike comes back to Perth to jump on her. She's undefeated from 2 starts at the track and distance. Comes into barrier 8 after the emergencies will be withdrawn. And she was a last start winner of the Asian Bow Stakes, as I've just said, beating Red Can Man. So I expect her from barrier 8 to be in the back third of the field or the back half of the field at the very best. I don't think Pike will be hustling her up to take up a position. So I think he'll just let her settle. Looks to be a good tempo. I think she should relish that. And as I said, the way I see the race will be Red Can Man in front with 200 to go and Inspirational Girl chopping him down. So they're the two I'm going to back in the race. Inspirational Girl's $3.80. Red Can Man's around $9. And I think, the way I've got it's basically 1 unit Red Can Man, 2 units Inspirational Girl. If either of those win, happy days. If they don't, we haven't spent too much. But yeah, the more I look at the race, they're the two that I just keep coming back to. How do you see it?
Yeah, look, I see it fairly similarly. I definitely agree with KC. She just looks very poorly in at the weights. I know she was good last start, but yeah, it doesn't bode well for her. I'm not a big kind of history and those kind of key pointers, but it just doesn't look to set up really well for her. Inspirational Girl is clearly the horse to beat. I don't know. She's not really one I've kind of gone wanting to find here. 360. I think she maps very well. Kind of probably just off midfield. But it will be interesting to see if there is that kind of outside that 6 meter kind of rail position. If she is hitting quicksand, kind of trying to come to the outside. We'll have to wait and see for that. I agree. I thought Red Can Man was probably the value in the race. I really liked his run last start, and then his run prior, just behind Inspirational Girl, was really good as well. Probably got a slight query on him at a strong 1,600 meters. Most of his form's kind of at 1,400. He's kind of had the one run at 1,600 meters for a third placing. But if he gets a nice kind of economical run just behind the speed there, I thought, he'll have every chance to run it out, and does look kind of the horse that's set to peak here and gets in well at the weight. So he'd probably be the way I'm leaning at this stage.
The other thing to mention with KC is, of course, Stephen Parnham. We saw him fall on Wednesday at Ascot, unfortunately, because Stevie's one of the best blokes in racing, and anyone you ask will say the same thing. So really unfortunate and gut-wrenching for him to come off at any stage, let alone 3 days out from the railway, one of the biggest races, in his career, no doubt. Jason Brown, as I expected, has been confirmed to ride KC. Now, why that's so significant is because Stephen Parnham's ridden KC in all 12 career starts. He's ridden her in every single trial bar one, where she was ridden by Ryan Hill one day. So she's going to have a completely new rider who's probably never sat on her back before, going straight into a Group 1 as second or third favourite. So I think that's pretty important, another thing to consider. There's a couple of other horses which really scare me, and I don't necessarily know how to assess them. One being horse number 14, Too Close to the Sun, who was my best bet of the day last weekend in the Ascot Gold Cup. Now, he absolutely dominated. He won by 4 lengths, put them to the sword. It was never in doubt. But what I will say about that victory is 2 things. The first thing is he was stepping up from 14 to 1,800 metres, which, as we know, he's won up to 2,400 metres. So the step up in distance was always going to favour him. He now drops back to the mile on the 7-day backup. And the other thing is the track conditions, because last weekend he had things 100 million% in his favour. He's undefeated from 4 starts on wet ground, and he got the bog conditions that he absolutely relishes. It's going to be probably back to a good 4 at this stage. So he's going to be back onto a firm deck, dropping in distance and unable to dictate the race, because I don't think he's going to lead this race. As I said, I think Great Shot and probably Galo Chopper are going to be in front of him. So with those 3 things in mind, I've got to take on someone, and I just couldn't find a way to fit him in. The other horse that I'm kind of terrified of is 15, Truly Great. As I said, Chris Parnham jumps off to ride Kementari, but from what I understand, he jumped off prior to Truly Great winning last start. Last start was a little bit sketchy because he was dropping back from 1,800 to 1,500 metres, but class just got him over the line. He won again. He's now won 6 of his 10 career starts, jumps back up slightly in distance to the mile. Clint Johnston Porter takes over, profiles really well, 53 kilos on the back. We know he runs a strong mile. My concern with him is the barrier draw, though. He's drawn out in barrier 18, will probably come into somewhere around 15, I think, with emergencies out. And the only way I can see him the only position on the speed map I can see is that they go all the way back to last, basically, or try and slot in 3 wide and risk being caught, wide throughout. So I think they're going to go all the way back to the end of the field. And again, with that mention of the track conditions, whether the outside is the ideal place to be is the query. And also, if he's giving Inspirational Girl 2 or 3 lengths on the turn, is he going to be able to run past it? I don't think he can. So therefore, I'm going to have to take him on. Platoon, he ran 3rd in this race last year. He was a little bit flat and disappointing last start, but his first up run was good. I thought 3rd up to 1,600 metres, carrying the exact same weight as he did in last year's race when he was beaten less than a length. I thought he could be included at around $15. And the blowout, I thought the absolute blowout in the race was horse number 9, Cup Night. He's currently around $27. My query with Cup Night is that he got galloped on really bad last start. I think it was Shooter McGrady got to the front, dropped 3 anchors. The field just dominoed into each other, and Cup Night came off the worst of them all. He got galloped on. He ran straight up the arses of other horses, and he pulled up with a cut in his leg. So whether he's at 100% is the query, but look, he's going to relish a strong tempo coming from the back of the field. He closed really good in the northerly starts, 2 starts back. And look, if there's one flying home late at huge odds, it could be him. Outside of that, pretty happy to take on the rest.
Funny you mentioned Cup Night there. I was just kind of looking through the field once again, and I kind of going through each runner, and I had a look at Cup Night as well, and was about to mention him there as potentially being the blowout or the roughie in the race. I thought, kind of looking back through his form, his run 2 back was really good, and if you forgive his last start, he's got to be in the game. He drops a stack in weight as well. Meets Inspirational Girl, I think 3 kilos better than from last start, where he obviously was a complete forgive. So I thought he was probably the roughie that you could include as well.
And you have to forgive him for last start. Anyone who can go back and watch the replay, you'll see what I mean. McGrady just finds the front, just stops to a walk, and the field behind him just runs straight into each other, and Cup Night just gets badly checked, and he pulled up with a laceration. So have to forgive him for that. And his 2 starts back was really good. Do you have any
$5.50? He started $5.50 in that race as well.
Yep.
So he's obviously well respected by the market. And, the market's taken a complete set against him here. He's as much as $31, I think, at some places. So, I think that's probably over the odds.
Do you have any thoughts on Too Close to the Sun or Truly Great while you're at it?
I thought Truly Great probably get too far back. It's a good horse, but I just, don't love the map for him. Too Close to the Sun at 1,600 metres on a dry deck is just, it's a slight knock, but he's a very good horse. Just perhaps not his race, but he'll run really well and perhaps try and make it a real strong 1,600 metres and try and kind of use that staying prowess. But I thought, like you said, you can't really back them all, and I can understand why you'd be leaving him out.
Well, they were originally setting him for the Perth Cup, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is 2,400. And then after he won last week, they were kind of like, oh, well, actually, we should probably put him in the railway. So, just a couple of queries, but he's scary.
If he was coming into this second up after his run behind Inspirational Girl last start, you'd probably, and he'd probably be a longer price. You'd be giving him a good hope, but it's just a strange setup. For
sure. But again, scary. Anything from this stable is scary as well. That's the way I've seen the Railway Stakes. Pretty happy that it's pretty happy to land on 2 horses there. In what looks a big field and a decent market. I'm pretty happy just to back Inspirational Girl, $3.80, 2 units, and a unit on Red Can Man at $8.50. Which way are you going to go?
I'll probably risk Inspirational Girl. I think she's clearly the horse to beat, but I'm just gonna kind of spec a couple here. I think Red Can Man's the kind of the real danger to her, and I think Cup Night is the roughie. So I'll have something each on both of them, but concede Inspirational Girl does look very hard to beat.
Beautiful. Well, that wraps it up. Now, do we even need to do a preview show for next week? Because if trekking draws a barrier in next week's Winterbottom Stakes, is he the biggest living, breathing certainty in the whole of racing this year?
Yeah, apart from Too Close to the Sun last week. He will be very hard to beat.
More on that next week, though. We better save that for next week's show. We'll get through this weekend's Group 1 first. Hopefully pick up the money and then put it all on trekking in next weekend's Winterbottom Stakes. That's been us, guys. You can find all of our previews on racingbet.com.au. I've got a full runner-by-runner preview of the Group 1 Railway Stakes up online. Trent's got his race-by-race previews for both Moonee Valley on Friday night and Ballarat for Ballarat Cup Day on Saturday. Josh Reed will be covering, where are they on Saturday? Kembla Grange, I think, in New South Wales. Kembla Grange, the Gong. Yep. A good field assembled for the Gong. And I'll have a full preview of Ascot for Railway Stakes Day. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll do it all again next week, and good luck this Saturday.